In the next 60 seconds I'm going to explain to you why ball carrying ability is so important in the modern game, specifically for central midfielders, before looking at one specific player in regards to potentially being signed by Manchester United, and it certainly is an outside of the box target who I think most people would disagree with, but I'll give you a hint, he is English so he would fill a homegrown spot. But there have been examples of United signing somewhat underrated players and turning them into key players, and you can find retro jerseys from Jersey FIFA with some of these players, such as Antonio Valencia from the 2012-2013 season. He was signed from Wigan in 2009, and you could also put someone like Michael Carrick as an underrated signing as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you should get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which will be linked in the description. So, ball carrying ability has become vital in the modern game, particularly in central midfield, largely due to the high aggressive pressing and wide possession shapes that a lot of sides use, leaving space centrally to exploit if the press is beat or possession is won back in transition quickly. The lack of athleticism and ball carrying ability in the midfield is arguably United's biggest issue at the moment, which is only being exacerbated by Ten Hag's high pressing system, which demands that the central midfielders cover a lot of space, alongside the fact that he's using a 4-2-4 pressing shape at times, leaving the midfield double pivot incredibly isolated during certain phases of play. I mean, it's pretty clear that Christian Eriksen is on his last legs, so why is Ten Hag playing him in a midfield double pivot? I just don't understand it. He just doesn't have the athleticism to track runners, nor the dynamism to drive the ball through the centre of the pitch when the space is there to do so. But Eriksen has never been the most athletic midfielder, even in his prime. However, Casemiro, even last season, was a high energy aggressive ball winner, but this season before his injury, he looked lethargic in defensive situations, was increasingly sloppy in possession, and seemed to have an inability to track runners into the box, which was a massive issue for United's poor start to the season. With Eriksen and Casemiro in midfield, United have two players now in their 30s who, compared to Arsenal's, Tottenham's, Liverpool, City's and even Newcastle's midfield, are just a level below, purely from a physical and athletic point of view. And so come the summer, with Eriksen's contract up and Casemiro surely attracting interest from Syria and hopefully the Saudi Pro League, I think that United have to be looking to upgrade upon these two, bringing in replacements who have the necessary athletic ability to suit a high pressing system, whilst also having the powerful ball carrying ability that is so valuable in the modern game. But who should United be targeting? So these aren't my definite options for United to sign, just some names I thought I'd analyse, and I'll look at some other central midfielders throughout the next few weeks as well, before maybe around mid-December time, around Christmas, doing a full definitive list on who I think United should sign in 2024. So I've been watching quite a bit of AC Milan recently, and two players who stand out from those games, but also statistically as well, are Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Tijani Reinders. Both players are coming into their peak years, with Ruben Loftus-Cheek 27, 28 in January and Reinders 25, 26 in July. And so I wonder whether both have the exact type of profile that United should be looking for. Forget about style and ability for a minute. In terms of age profile, you could argue that for around 40 to 45 million pounds, signing either one of these players would be excellent value. People may point to Loftus-Cheek being 28 in 2024 as a concern, but I'd argue that a lot of players' physical peak is usually around their late 20s, particularly for central midfielders, and Loftus-Cheek is so good from a physical point of view that you'd imagine he'd be able to sustain his levels and maybe even improve as he gets into his 30s. What also is important to factor in is the amount of game time he's played throughout his career, or should I say the lack of game time throughout his career, as he was someone who was somewhat coddled at Chelsea, not really racking up a ton of minutes in his late teens, early 20s, meaning that you would assume that burnout wouldn't be as much of a concern with Ruben Loftus-Cheek as it could be with other English players like Saka, Rashford and Bellingham. Watching the game against PSG, it was evident that this is the exact type of game where Loftus-Cheek thrives, a player made for the transition. As soon as possession is won in the Milan half, Loftus-Cheek is the outlet. His ability to drive powerfully through the centre of the pitch with the ball at his feet, evading challenges and carrying the ball into dangerous positions is up there with the best in the world, reminiscent of Moussa Dembele, a player who in the modern game would have been considered one of the best central midfielders in world football, with the Belgian like Loftus-Cheek having the perfect blend of physicality, dribbling technique, pace, power and acceleration. Put Ruben Loftus-Cheek into that United central midfield, you instantly have a midfield with a significant amount more ball carrying ability, and this could also be said for Utd Reinders as well, who like Ruben Loftus-Cheek was fantastic against PSG, showcasing his ball carrying ability on the biggest stage. However, unlike Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who did this mostly in the transition, carrying the ball through big spaces, Reinders instead did it more under controlled possession, having the ability to receive the ball in front of the PSG midfield line, but with a combination of body feints, quick feet and a turn of pace, was able to jink past PSG central midfielders and progress the ball up the pitch into dangerous positions. And both players' FB Ref reports showed a picture of central midfielders who certainly aren't elite when it comes to their progressive passing just yet, but are exceptional ball carriers and dribblers, which is certainly the case with Loftus-Cheek. And I think the attributes that Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reinders have is what Pep saw in Matthias Nunes and Mateo Kovacic. I did put out a tweet last week about how I think the main involvement of Pep tactically is coming from having better ball carriers in the centre of the pitch, which gives you a greater variety of ways to beat the press. If you do want to keep up to date with this thread, you can go and give me a follow on Twitter. I'll leave it in the description and on the end screen at the end of the video. But like with Matthias Nunes, who I actually did a video on towards the back end of last season, Loftus-Cheek is a midfielder who from a physical perspective is probably as good as you could ask for, with him being 6'3", 194 pounds, whilst also being rapid across the ground both with and without the ball. Now Loftus-Cheek certainly wouldn't be a complete central midfielder, he's not going to be effective at picking incisive passes into players between the lines against a low compact defensive block, but when it comes to transitioning the attack quickly via driving through the centre, I honestly don't think there's too many central midfielders in world football that I'd rather have in my side. Essentially, I think of Loftus-Cheek as a Joe Linton upgrade. Joe Linton has the physicality and athleticism to be a perfect box-to-box midfielder for Eddie Howe's midfield three, and I see this with Loftus-Cheek as well. Although despite not being as good defensively as Joe Linton, Loftus-Cheek is a much better carrier of the ball, and overall I'd say he's a technically superior player as well. Loftus-Cheek is also homegrown, which United have to think about, given that both McTominay and Maguire still look like they will eventually leave the club in the summer, as well as players like Jadon Sancho, Hannibal Mejbri, and maybe even someone like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Milan did buy Ruben Loftus-Cheek for £15 million plus add-ons in the summer, so realistically anything around the £40 million mark is probably realistic. He's only earning around £3.5 million a year at Milan as well, so he'll likely sign a 4-year deal with the option of a fifth for the club on a salary of around £5 million per season. Definitely a transfer that I'd say looks pretty good financially for United. And to be honest, if asked, I'd probably take Utd Reinders as well if I could get him and Loftus-Cheek for a joint £80 to £90 million, considering both were signed for less than £40 million combined by Milan in the summer. Reinders is slightly different to Loftus-Cheek. He doesn't have the same sort of physical dominance, but he's also an efficient carrier of the ball through the centre of the pitch, but also a player who is an effective circulator of the ball as well. He's capable of playing that deep single pivot role, something that Ten Hag's side could definitely do with. And like Loftus-Cheek, his FB Ref report shows a player who defensively isn't completing a high volume of defensive actions, but like Loftus-Cheek, Reinders ranks highly for the percentage of dribblers he has tackled, as well as the overall amount of challenges he has lost as well, showing that both are actually very good defensively, but a passive Milan defensive style, where Pioli instructs the midfield to drop off and hold deeper positions, is likely the main reason why their overall defensive volume numbers are so low. Now, because United are only likely to be able to prize one of these away from Milan, I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek would be my priority, and that's mainly due to the fact that I think his skill set is a lot rarer and arguably more valuable. I mean, over the past 365 days, when compared against every other midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues, he ranks in the 88th percentile for his carries into the final third, the 92nd percentile for his carries into the penalty area, and the 95th percentile for his overall successful take-ons, and the 99th for his progressive carries, showing that when it comes to either beating a man with the ball at his feet, or driving powerfully into space, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is an absolute machine. And just imagine how potent a weapon he would be in big games. United could defend in a narrow 4-3-3, with Mason Mount and Loftus-Cheek either side of Amrabat or maybe a new signing in that pivot position, with Bruno Fernandes in the front three out of possession alongside Højlund and Rashford. Currently, when United win possession in their own half, their only outlet to a counter-attack is finding Bruno Fernandes if he's in space in behind the opposition's midfield line. Ten Hag doesn't have anyone like a Nunes or a Kovacic at City, Rice at Arsenal, or Gravenberch or Szoboszlai at Liverpool, who can drive through the centre of the pitch and progress the attack themselves. But with Ruben Loftus-Cheek alongside Mason Mount as the wide midfielders in what essentially would be a midfield diamond with Bruno Fernandes at the top and Amrabat in the pivot position, United would have a player who physically and athletically is head and shoulders above Eriksen and Casemiro, bringing more power and directness to United's midfield, improving Ten Hag's side's ability to play out of high pressure in their defensive third with Loftus-Cheek's press resistance, as well as having a midfielder who in Yaya Toure-esque fashion can drive the ball at speed into the final third. I think if Ruben Loftus-Cheek is maybe 5 or 6 years younger, he's probably going to cost around 70 or 80 million pounds. And so while maybe on the surface the fact that he's going to be 28 in 2024 seems to bring his signing into some doubt, I do think it is important to actually look at the benefits that come with this. First of all, he's going to be cheaper than if he was in his early 20s, but let's say he plays at the top level until 32, 33, where he may even continue to improve. For 40 to 45 million pounds or maybe 5 million pounds salary a season, United could still probably get at least 3 or 4 excellent seasons from him, maybe as many as 5. And also at this point in time, I don't think I can say for sure that United should prioritise Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a number 1 target. I do think he should be on their list of players to watch, as should Tijjani Reinders, who I will be talking about in future videos. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, remember to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when my videos come out. I'll leave some other videos for you to check out in the description below, and put your thoughts on these 2 players in the comments section as well.